Ooh, welcome in the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Balls on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Oh, man, feeling good. Successful Mother's Day weekend over here. Had family in town, so we just made the most of it. And thankfully, I remember to get flowers and gifts, and I hope you did too. Otherwise, I wouldn't imagine you'd be on this call if you didn't.
Yeah, I'm not in the doghouse. Thanks for the public service announcement, Mike. That really helped us out. It was a rough one, man. I ain't gonna lie. We're recording this on a Sunday. This is actual Mother's Day, man. I've been under the weather, but I'm here, man. I'm here drinking beers, trying to knock this thing out. So,
Yep. Well, hey, Shane, I wanted to make a little announcement to the audience. Again, credit to them for helping us build up this show, and you know the credibility that we've gotten over time, and a little milestone for us. Shane, obviously, this time last year, we were over the moon because the SEC, for the first time, let us attend SEC Media Days. Yeah. I think we were basically the last one to make the cut, Shane. I mean, we'll never complain about, access and things of that nature, but they took us their sweet time letting us know we were going to be able to come in. This year, Shane, we filed on a Friday. They let us know by Wednesday. So we are officially locked in to the upcoming SEC Media Days. We've got our rooms booked. We got a table just like last time. And hopefully we'll get even more interviews with some tremendous people out there. So, hey, the fall season is right around the corner, brother. And, man, we have got some exciting plans for Media Days and the football season. It's just so exciting just sitting here thinking about it.
Absolutely, man. I mean, this is one of our favorite times of the year, and not having to worry about not being there. I mean, that really took a little pressure off. But we're going to get down there. We're going to do our best. We're going to ask the coaches questions. We're going to ask the players questions. Some questions that y'all want, and I think that's important too. You're going to hear a lot of the X's and O's and the player development and blah, blah, blah. But there's, if you ever watch us, we try to find out them as a person and some things that they want to accomplish. And it just, I don't know, we have a lot of fun with it. So be sure to follow us that week. If you're not subscribed now, be sure to get on YouTube, get on there, hit subscribe, because, I don't want to get the cart in front of the horse, but we plan a few live showings down there, right, Mike? Is it too early to say that? I mean, we could edit this out if it is.
Yeah, no, we're going to be going live from SEC Media Days as long as we can figure out the technology. There's never any promises with us when it comes to technology, but I'm pretty sure that I got enough time to figure all that out prior to it, Shane. And
Cousin Joe outside holding the satellite dish for us. It's gonna be epic, man.
Yeah, and we're even planning. We're still in the process, Shane. So we can't say too much because I don't have details finalized. But we're trying to do an event prior to Media Days. If you want to come down to the event the Saturday before, it's going to be free. You're going to get to hang out with Cousin Shane and I and drink some beer and have some ball and play some games and stuff. So it's going to be a good time. Once we get
absolutely
more details, we'll let you guys know.
Yeah, and it'll be the weekend before, most likely a Saturday. So, it's Nashville. Take your girl down for the weekend, have some fun. Have a night out on town, but one of those nights, come over with us and drink some cold beer and kick back, just talk about just the show and college football, man. I mean, it's going to be nothing formal, trust me. I'll be the least dressed one there. But whenever you come in, we can have some fun, and I think it's going to be awesome. So the closer we get to that date, more details we'll have for you on that. But we're going to mix it up a little bit this year. We're going to be a little bit more interactive while we're at Media Days. So that's why I was letting you know again on the YouTube. Keep those notifications on, because when we do go live, we'll be able to answer questions immediately, which is awesome. And there'll be no edit button, so you're going to see just how sloppy this show can get.
Yeah, that's right, Shane. And hey, we only got one topic to hit on here. We got a voicemail. We're going to get to it in a second, but I believe you also, Shane, have an announcement before we get to that.
Yeah, Mike, this one's a big one and one I've been putting off for a while. But as everybody knows, longtime listeners, Shane tried last year to do this thing. It was called 100 Days Big Orange Walks, and I did it prior to kickoff. And this year, if you've not familiarized yourself with the schedule, the first football game of the SEC is August 26th. It'll be Hawaii versus Vanderbilt, and exactly 100 days before that is coming up, Mike. It's going to be the 18th. It's going to be the 18th of this month. So here in about 3 days, Shane is going to kick off the Big Orange Walks, and this time it's going to be successful, Mike. I've got everything lined up. I've got the equipment I need. I'm going to get out there. I'm going to absolutely kill it, I promise. So be sure to follow us on the YouTube Shorts and TikToks. We'll be able to post every day. I'll have you a nice little post one day closer to college football, which is, this is my favorite time of year, Mike, because it's all fun and games. You feel like college football's so far away, but then when you start seeing those numbers, when you get in 100 and then it's 90s, and then you start saying, okay, remember, who's your favorite number 88, or who's your number 54, and you're getting closer and you're counting down to college football, Mike. It makes it surreal. So during this, I'm also going to have the walks, and my goal is to cut some LBs, so that's 3 days away. So naturally, I've stocked up the fridge full of terrible stuff. I'm going to binge eat. I'm going to be terrible, Mike. I should probably have a video show just about how much shit I'm going to eat the next 3 days. But I'm getting it out of my system because I'm getting healthy and I'm getting ready for college football. I figured if they're going to do 2-a-days, I can at least get my ass out there and walk an hour. So Big Orange Walks kicks off later this week. So be sure to follow and support.
You have not told me this, Shane, so I just want to know, us talking about all these games on the last show on Friday, did that inspire you to realize, oh man, we got all this action, we're about 100 days out, I need to get in gear? You're getting fired up thinking about college football.
Mike, I ain't gonna lie, it kind of snuck up on me. I thought I had some more time. I had full intentions to do the Big Orange Walks, but then we got to talking, and then, everybody's moving the games up and stuff like that. And I asked Siri how many days away we are, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's next week, So caught me off guard, but man, it is time, and I'm ready. I will say this, Mike, I'm not the health nut, Clearly, nobody's here for weight loss advice, but I will say during those Big Orange Walks was some of the best feeling days I had. So I'm looking forward to getting back to getting on the wagon. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And that was like the number one thing we got at media days was, where's the walks been? I'm missing the walks. Everybody loved the walks. So
what's the over under, Mike? DraftKings, 30 days, 35 days. How far do you think I'm making into this thing?
Let's give you 35 this year. 35 is
35. Oh, is that that's the line? Man, that's tough. That's over a month. So
Yep.
that's real commitment there. So I hope I get 100, man. I'm going in shooting for 100. I've got to get it. But 35. If that's the line, Vegas knows best.
Well, so we got a great question here from cousin Brad from Kentucky on the hotline. Let me give that number out one more time. We're very eager to answer your guys' questions, so give us some content while we've got time to answer it. And this is the time of the year. It's perfect to call in. Give us your comments, concerns, what have you, predictions at 615-965-5152. And that number's in the show notes. It's absolutely free. Won't cost you a thing. Just give us your name and ask us your question, and you'll be prompted with a crazy voicemail from cousin Shane and I, so you get the right number. That's one more time, 615-965-5152. Let's get over to cousin Brad from Kentucky.
Mike, cousin Shane, Brad, Harlan, Kentucky, formerly East Tennessee. Go Vols. I just figured I'd join cousin Shane here. All right. So 2 questions for you, fellas. One is you guys have touched base on and off on the QB situation in the SEC a little bit. My first question is going to be week 1 starting quarterbacks, you guys' opinion. Week 6 starting quarterbacks in the SEC, your opinion. Fellas, it's been a long time. Hope y'all doing well. We'll see you.
All right, Shane. So really great question here. I appreciated it from Brad, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently just because I thought if naming week 1 quarterbacks, week 6 quarterbacks, it's kind of confusing, and who in the hell knows who's going to be starting by week 6? But
Yeah.
I have a good feeling on most of these who the quarterback will be for week 1, and then I'm giving a percentage that quarterback is still the quarterback by week 6. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Cousin Brad, I want to give him a shout out. This is my boy from back home. He sent this voicemail in and sent me a text. He said, "Did you get it?" I was like, "Why haven't you checked it?" Mike doesn't give me contact to the hotline. He think he gets rid of all the bad ones, so I don't hear him. So appreciate that, Mike. But Cousin Brad, this is a fantastic question, and yes, I believe that does make sense because I think that's the real argument instead of figuring out the depth chart, because if you look, we did a power ranking last year about this time, not too far from this time, of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. And it's funny that we had a lot of those guys on the list that didn't even finish the season as a quarterback. So,
right.
I think the percentage one, that definitely makes sense here.
And I should make a note, Shane, we always do one of my favorite shows in the off season is quarterback rankings, and we will still do that. But with this transfer portal, Shane, the depth chart's changing week by week. So every time a quarterback transfers into the SEC, I got to start watching his film. So I've not watched all the film of all these guys that played in other conferences just yet. So little caveat here, I may be wrong on some of these, but this is my sense of who will start week 1 and then the percentage that they will be starting by week 6, essentially the midpoint of the season. So let's just go in alphabetical order. Shane, Alabama, week 1 starter. I bet you won't even guess who I've got a good feeling about here.
I don't know. Is it the Notre Dame boy?
Nope. I'm going Ty Simpson.
Really?
Believe it or not, Shane. Got banged up in the spring game. And you go back and you actually watch that spring game. I know we were a little bit more impressed with Jalen Milroe in that game. Stats were a little bit better, but some of that did come against walk-ons, and we've seen him on the field, and he was less than stellar. I'm not ready to count Milroe out either. We certainly can't count out Buckner, the Notre Dame transfer. They brought him in for a reason, but hell, he lost his job at Notre Dame for a reason too, Shane. So I think this is just more competition. And really
I was thinking Milroe would be the guy. Honestly, if I thought maybe you'd go with the Notre Dame kid. What's his name? I got to get used to his name here.
Buckner.
Yeah, I thought maybe Buckner, wild card here.
Yeah.
But if I were hand picking one, I would pick the guy that was first string in spring, first string. And so I would go. So how confident are you that Ty's really the guy? Forget moving on. I know we're getting 2 parts here, but I'm just curious, in your opinion, how confident you think Ty is a starting quarterback there?
Well, I think it'll give you a good indication, Shane, based on my percentage. I'm giving it that he's still the week 6 starter, and that's 33%. So basically a third. That's less than flipping a coin. So not sold on it whatsoever, but he's been in the system, at least Alabama's version of the system, for a while. I know Buckner was added at Notre Dame, so maybe that's basically the same thing. But I don't know. I think he's the most talented by far. I think he's the best prospect, and I think at the end of the day he'll win out in that competition. But I don't have a ton of confidence one way or another. We could go any way here, but the fact they brought in the Notre Dame guy tells you, both the quarterbacks they have, they're not overly thrilled with, obviously.
Let me ask you something, Mike, and I know we're just one team into this thing, but by any chance, do you have Alabama's schedule? I'm curious what their first 6 games look like, because in the back of my mind, I see this playing a little bit different. I'm seeing Milroe come out, maybe just the fact that Alabama is the better team on the field, they just steamroll some of these teams, unless there's a couple landmines there.
Here's the schedule for you, Shane. Season opener at home, Middle Tennessee. Should be no problem. Week 2,
right.
Texas comes to town. They could get into, I don't want to call it a shootout because Alabama should have a good defense, but they're saying Texas offense is pretty good. So could be a high-scoring affair. You're going to need quarterback play in that one. At South Florida, week 3, should beat the hell out of them. Ole Miss at home, that's another tricky game. Could be a high-scoring affair.
Yeah.
And then at Mississippi State. So very quality team, tough environment to play. And then, of course, at Texas A&M. I don't want to jump ahead too far, but right there is.
Yeah, but I think the Texas A&M, the Texas one may be the first snag, but definitely Texas A&M, tough matchup. Sometimes, I don't know what it is, Mike, but I feel like we run with just the best athlete of the 3 quarterbacks here. And that gets us so far. But then when you play a team like, think about, he had an opportunity. They almost lost to Texas A&M last year with him at the helm. So
right.
I'm with you here, Mike. I am so uncertain of the starting quarterback at Alabama. So, yeah, I could go Ty at 33, but I could also see Ty being the starter week 6 and not the starter week 1, So it's very, very interesting. You talk about a camp that you really want to keep your eyes on this August. It is down there in Tuscaloosa.
Yeah. All right, how about the easiest one on the board, Shane? Arkansas. KJ Jefferson. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
We don't even got to spend time on this one. Percentage, he's the starter by week. And again, we're assuming no injuries, which is obviously not going to be the reality, but we're not projecting injuries on anybody. So 100% starter by week 6. I mean, he would have to transfer out to not be the starter, Shane.
That's exactly right.
he's the best quarterback in the SEC, in my opinion. He's probably the best quarterback in the country, minus maybe Caleb Williams. That may be the only guy better, in my opinion. So, yeah, KJ, that's easy.
Well, I'll tell you, too, another little thing is short of injuries, I think you hit the nail on the head here, just staying healthy. But I think they're more confident with the backup quarterbacks they've got in Arkansas, So I'm going to go, obviously, 100% no injuries, but I'm going to just be realistic here and say 90%. I don't think they'd hesitate to let KJ take a week off or something like that. So I am going to factor that in. So, yeah, I'm sitting there about 90%, but clearly the best quarterback on that team, if not the SEC.
Right. All right, now Auburn, here's where we get a little dicey, but I'm going, again, without studying him intensively here because he was in a different conference, but I'm going Peyton Thorne, the Michigan State transfer. He started 2 years up there at Michigan State. But little wrinkle here, Shane, percentage that he's the starter by week 6, fairly high, but I'm still only going 75% because he wasn't there for spring football. We have no idea how he truly fits this Hugh Freeze, Philip Montgomery offense. They may get to a point. This happens all the time, Shane, where everybody gets enamored with a guy they've not seen. And they think, oh, this is our savior. And then sometimes they hit the field and they're like, my God, this guy's awful. You know what I mean? Like, how many times did that happen at Georgia? And Stetson Bennett had to step up, and he was outstanding. They brought in Joe Milton to start over Hendon Hooker. I mean, it happens time and time again. The guy you bring in via transfer is not always the answer. And again, this is not me picking apart his game because I've not even really seen it, but we have seen enough of Robbie Ashford to know he may not be a great quarterback, at least not yet. But I could see a situation where Thorne struggles a little bit and they say, hey, we need this really mobile Robbie Ashford, and maybe he is the perfect fit for this Auburn offense. So that's why I'm giving it just 75%, just in case maybe Robbie Ashford does take a big leap and they want that more running option under center.
No, that's a good point, Mike. 2 totally different QBs here, and that's what makes this one a little bit tougher to gauge. It wouldn't surprise me if Ashford didn't start and then Thorne takes over, just as he gets acclimated with, Hugh Freeze's system here. So, yeah, I'm pretty low on this one myself. I'm going to go 60% just because I'm not convinced he's the starter. But I do think Thorne will be the guy week 6. I think that's something that eases in. But on the flip side of the coin, how many times have we seen this, Mike? You need a little spark, and all of a sudden you bring in that mobile quarterback, and he's able to do. I mean, there was times last year he was all the offense had. So very, very, very athletic. It's going to be tough to keep him off the field. But, yeah, I'm going to go about 60% here.
Mm-hmm. All right, how about Florida, Shane? I think this one, the starting quarterback, to me, is fairly easy, even though some people say it's a toss-up. I'm going Graham Mertz, the Wisconsin transfer. He started, I believe, 3, if not 4 years up there at Wisconsin. But I'm just giving him 80% chance of being the starter by week 6, which is still really high. But I don't know if that's because Graham Mertz is, some great quarterback, or if it's more where I lean, Shane, and it's just, I don't know if they got a guy that could take his job.
Yeah, I think that's it, man. I think that's the problem you have is there's not a lot of competition down there yet. So doesn't mean there won't be. I mean, they're still attacking, they'll still be attacking the portal. And somebody may roll in there in Gainesville before you know it. But I'm with you here. I'm going to lean 80%. I'm pretty confident here unless somebody just comes out of nowhere.
Right. All right, how about Georgia, Shane? Carson Beck. I mean, I don't know why they have not named him the starter yet. He's your week 1 starter, I have no doubt. But what's the chances that he's going to be your starter by midweek, Shane, or midseason? 95%. I mean, I think he's the guy. I think he's going to have a really good year. But I'm leaving that 5% just because, again, kind of what I just said, man. I mean, how many times have we had some guy roll in and like, this is the guy. He's going to kill it. We're just going to be another dynasty. And then they're not the guy. I mean, that can happen. What happens? He comes out, Shane, and he struggles the first couple weeks. I mean, that pressure is going to mount. They're going to be saying, by God, what's wrong with Georgia? What's wrong with Bobo's offense? What's wrong with this Carson Beck? I could see all that, and we never know how someone is going to handle that pressure. So, again, I'm saying 95% confident. So, very, very small percentage, but we have to give that percentage until we see him on the field and how well he actually does.
Yeah, I mean, he's never been the starter in Athens. So, he's came in a few times, looked good, looked like he had some poise. He was really, I think, dynamite during the spring game. But you're right, when the lights come on, maybe you're not as good as we thought. And then you've got 2 other guys looking over your shoulder. So you mentioned Milton earlier. That's a prime example. Milton was supposed to be a guy, and then here you go. We switch over to Hooker. So I'm still pretty confident, though. I mean, he looked too damn good to not be legit. So I'm going to go with you there, 95, 96% easy.
Yeah. All right, how about Kentucky? Shane, Devin Leary, the transfer from NC State, he is the one that I have watched the most of all these transfer quarterbacks, Shane. And I got to tell you, I've said it before, I'll continue to say it. I mean, I think Kentucky landed a gem in Devin Leary. So give me 100%. He's a starter by midseason. He may be a top 5 quarterback, if not better. I've seen people have him in the top 3 of SEC quarterbacks. I'm not ready to quite put him into that conversation just yet, but he certainly could be. I think Devin Leary, Kentucky upgraded at quarterback, given Will Levis's struggles last year. I think this is a dangerous team because they feature a dangerous quarterback here. Very, very accurate passer. I believe he had 35 touchdowns, 3 interceptions as a junior. This is a really good player.
Well, let's don't crown him yet, Mike. Let's don't get too carried away with that Lexington love. No, don't get me wrong, man. Kentucky went out there. I mean, basically free agent this thing. They went out and got their franchise quarterback, brought him to campus, brought back an OC. They're building around Leary, so there's no doubt in my mind, 100% he's the quarterback, short of injuries or anything like that. But, yes, I'm with you. I do think that this is an improved Kentucky offense, and a lot of that to do with Leary, but more to do with some of them big uglies up front and the moves that they've made. So, I'm high on Kentucky here.
And remember, Shane, Auburn and Florida wanted this guy, Devin Leary.
Oh, yeah.
He picked Kentucky, so that should, if I'm a Kentucky fan, I'm sitting there beating my chest saying that's where we are as a program. I mean, and it was not even like a stunner. It was just he wanted to go play for Liam Cohen and Mark Stoops.
That's right. Didn't Florida want their coach too? At one point, wasn't that the rumor? Kentucky just steals everything from Florida, even victories.
All right, how about LSU, Shane? Jaden Daniels, of course, going to be your week 1 starter. But the only reason I'm not going 100% that he's the starter by midseason, Shane, is Garrett Nussmeier. And again, we're talking expectations. I don't think that'll affect LSU much, but you never know. I mean, last year there was no expectations. They looked awful coming out. and then they turn that into a great season. But it's completely different this year, Shane. Many people, myself included, is going to be picking them to make a run at another SEC championship, perhaps make the college football playoff. How does that affect the roster, the program? I mean, it should motivate them to know what they can do, but again, you just never know. And what if the offense takes a step back and they say, hey, let's throw Garrett Nussmeier in here. The plan is to play him. And what if he comes out here and looks like the next Joe Burrow? They're not going to sit him. So 95% chance, because I think Jay Dan's going to have a really good year. I just said all that, but I do think he'll have a great season. But there's a small percentage that Garrett Nussmeier, maybe he takes that big leap and he's your guy by the end of the season.
Is he the best backup quarterback in the country?
I think so. I mean, at this point in time, I don't know who else you would put in that category that is as good as Garrett Nussmeier.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of hype. Looked good in the spring. I mean, I'm more with you. I think it's 100% Daniels. I think this is his gig. He looked he looked dominant in spring as well. Mm-hmm. Short of him getting hurt, I don't see Nussmeier getting out there. But where there's smoke, there's fire, and we've heard a lot of talk out there. Everybody's excited about what they have there backing up Daniels. So, and the rope's shorter, brother. I would say this, with LSU, we were able to have some growing pains last year, which Daniels did at times. That leash may be a little bit shorter, if they drop 2 games earlier. So, so maybe you're right here, 95%. I could get behind that.
Now, how about Ole Miss, Shane? I think, if not for bringing in transfers, 2 transfers at quarterback, I think they would have already pulled the trigger and named Jackson Dart the starting quarterback. I still anticipate he will be the week 1 starter for Ole Miss. We'll see what Spencer Sanders can do in training camp when he's fully rested and healed up from his shoulder surgery, I believe it was. But, he's the only caveat here. But I'm still going 80% that Jackson Dart's your starting quarterback by midseason. And the reason being, Shane, I got a ton of faith in Jackson Dart. Apparently he took a big step forward. He's won over the locker room. But I've been watching a lot of Ole Miss here lately, Shane, from last year, and it was, he'll make 8 great throws, and then he'll make 2, and you're like, what the hell is he thinking? Where's he going with that ball? It's probably a lot easier to play football, Shane, when these games don't matter and there's not the 100,000 in the stands and every move is critiqued and criticized. And if we come out here right out the gate and he struggles against Tulane, we got Alabama early, and he starts making all these bad mistakes, Lane Kiffin has got to pull him and put in either Spencer Sanders or the young Howard. I mean, because expectation is to win big at Ole Miss. And if Jackson Dart can't get you there, we got 2 other quarterbacks that could potentially get us there. So 80% chance he'll still be the starter, but you can see not nearly as high as some of these other guys.
Yeah, well, and the fact that, you hit the nail on the head. They've got other options in Ole Miss. Last year it felt like they were kind of, hogtied there. This is our guy, and we're going to have to live and die with him. So do you have Ole Miss's first 6 games? I know Bama's on there, but I'm just kind of curious some of the other opponents they got early, because this also feels like one of those situations that they're not going to sit around and wait for Dart to grow up. He's going to have to come out and produce early, or they're going to look for other options.
Yeah, here it is, Shane. So we've got Mercer right out the gate. I'm laughing as I say Mercer. At Tulane, again, tricky game. They won, the Cotton Bowl, beat Southern Cal. Georgia Tech at home should beat them by about 30. At Alabama, LSU at home, and Arkansas at home. So,
buddy,
you have got to be in it by the 4th week of the season. Otherwise, we're in trouble.
Yeah, I'm going a little bit lower than you, Mike, just based off that schedule. Mm-hmm. Alabama, LSU, it's going to take a perfect game for them to take those teams out. And then on the tail end of that, you got an Arkansas team that's hungry and ready for a win. And if you're trailing and, falling down, this may be a good time for a quarterback change. So, yeah, I'm going lower, man. Give me about 60%. I know Dart looked good in the spring, but this is something we've got to see in action, brother. We didn't see it we saw flashes of it last year, and everything we've seen up to this point, it looks like he has grown a little bit and he has developed. And if he could continue that trend, I think we're in good shape. But I'm still a little bit hesitant just from last year's performance.
Mm-hmm. Well, staying in that state, Shane, Mississippi State, again, kind of a no-brainer here. Will Rogers, I realize different offense, but he's still the man at Starkville. And what's the odds he'll be week 6 starter? I'm not going 100%, Shane, but pretty close, 99%. Yeah. And the only reason is, we brought in Mike Wright, Shane, and he's been discounted before, and he's, maybe a little unorthodox as a passer, but he is electric as a playmaker, and who knows? They may need to spark the offense, and maybe Will Rogers doesn't fit it, which I do not think is going to be the case, but I'm leaving that little sliver of hope just because we've got such a experienced quarterback that, again, led Vanderbilt to wins over Kentucky and Florida last year. So this is not some joke of a backup quarterback. There's questions about if the SEC's got star power, Shane, at the quarterback position this year. But I think they got the best backup quarterbacks, like by far, any conference. I mean, we are loaded with options behind a lot of these starters.
Yeah, Mike, I think we get here in the next 2 or 3 drafts looking back at these guys saying, golly, SEC was loaded and we didn't know it. That's, I think, what happens. A lot of great athletes. Mike Wright, that is an interesting one. He chose Mississippi State for a reason, not to ride the bench. So you would think that there is an opportunity for some playing time down there. And he is fun to watch, and he is tough to keep off the field. They're going to have him in some sort of capacity out there with the 11. So, but I'm with you. It's tough. I like Will Rogers. I love the message that Arnett has. We're going to let him cook a little bit. We're going to let him play. We're going to let him throw the ball down the field. They're cutting him loose, Mike, and I think we're going to see better quarterback play because of it. So I'm close to you 100% here.
All right, how about Missouri, Shane? We've already got an indication from Eli Drinkowitz about a couple weeks ago. Brady Cook looks like the guy, but I'm only going 50%. Got faith in Brady. Let Brady cook back here, but he was banged up last year, so it's hard to evaluate him. But we do got the young Sam Horn. We brought in the Miami transfer Jake Garcia. So because of the options behind him, I'm a little less confident that he's our starter by the middle of the season. How's that sound to you?
Yeah, I'd probably go a little bit higher just because of their schedule. I think they're going to be all right here, man. I think, they got an opportunity to really build some momentum, and Cook especially is going to benefit the most from that. Obviously, I do think if there is a changing of guard, then shit went wrong in Mizzou, and this is a tough year for Eli. He's got to have some wins under his belt. This is a year for an extension. This is a year for a pay raise, or they're going to start looking around and do we got our guy? So that all stems from the quarterback. Last year we gave him excuses. This year we can't do that. So I'm going to go a little bit higher. I think Cook's about 65% here.
And here's that schedule you referenced, Shane. South Dakota at home. Come on. Get out of here. Middle Tennessee.
Is that even a school? I mean, I was sure. Check them papers real quick.
I think it's a high school. Middle Tennessee, man, they're loading up with the SEC teams for some reason. Kansas State at home, that's the tricky one.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Memphis, but it's in St. Louis. At Vanderbilt, and LSU at home. So, I mean, if you take care of business, you're going to be undefeated when LSU comes to town.
Yeah, they're not going to make a quarterback change going into that one either, I wouldn't imagine. So, yeah, I'm pretty confident. More you talk about it, I'm going to move that number up a little bit. I'd say 75%. They like that, Cook. I see them chips over there. I wonder if they're any good. I've not had any of those yet. I got 3 days to eat them, Mike. Why don't you send me a bag of chips, Luther chips over here.
All right, how about South Carolina, Shane? Another easy one. Spencer Rattler, of course, is going to be your starting quarterback. And he is one of the few that I'm putting at 100% is going to be your starter because basically the season is, we can't boil it down to just Spencer Rattler, but we've seen him, man. When he's on. They look unbeatable. They got a ride or die with Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, I'm 100 with you here too. I think, even if they lose some games, which I'm not saying they're going to, but they got a tough schedule right out of the gate. It's all Spencer. That's what it's all about right there. So he'll still be your guy at the end of the season.
Now Tennessee, it's a little tricky, Shane. I mean, I think it's a slam dunk. Joe Milton will be your week 1 starter, no doubt. But what is that number that he'll be the mid-season starter? I am going 65%. And this is not a critique of Joe Milton, but, I mean, we have seen him play, Shane. And there's been ups, there's been downs, and that's basically, this is not 1 year, this is multiple years. This is obviously a much better offensive system and better skill position around him, so that certainly helps. But it's complicated by the fact that you may have the best quarterback on campus as the number 2 and maybe one of the best quarterbacks in the country. We won't know till we see him. But, hell, I mean, we had eyes on it in spring practice. That's what they told us. We all saw it in the orange and white game. Not that he's a complete player, Nico, at this point in time, but when that light clicks for him, it's going to be near impossible to keep him off the field. And we've seen glimpses of it. So, I don't know. If Joe Milton struggles, I think Josh Heupel will have to pull that trigger and put Nico in. Again, only if Joe Milton is a big disaster. And I'm not sitting here saying he will. But, again, a player that has been inconsistent, what does that do to his psychological, the psychology of him knowing, man, they brought in a stud to warm the bench,
Yeah, it's tough, man. I'm closer to 50%, Mike, and the reason is fandom. There's everybody in Tennessee knows who Nico is. Everybody knows who, and it's you got coach that's pulled Milton before as a starter. So there's not a long leash here, man. He's gonna have to perform. We cannot have those infamous overthrows. We cannot have games thrown away. Pun intended there, Mike. This one here is just. It's a tough – I mean, and it's a pressure cooker. And the last time Milton had that much pressure on him, he kind of cracked. So, he better not be listening to this damn podcast or I'm going to – well, I was going to say kick his ass, but I can't kick Milton. I mean, who we kidding here?
You could try, but
my
good
ass.
luck.
Yeah, but I would say turn this off. Turn this talking heads off. Put your social media down. They used to make a big deal of that, just getting off your phone. Get out of your own way and just focus on what you're good at. And he did it. He did it against Clemson. We know that he's got the I mean, he's built like a Greek god, brother. He looks like the next Heisman runner, for quarterback. But it's all between his ears. So if he can keep that out, keep that noise out, 100%, man. But the problem is he does not have time to make mistakes because if he does, Nico's going to be in there.
And one thing, Shane, I don't think I've heard anyone discuss really when it comes to Josh Heupel and the Tennessee program, the boosters and everything. And I'm not sitting here saying this is a problem because I've not heard anything of it. But I'm just looking ahead in my crystal ball here, Shane. We all know with the NIL package that Nico got allegedly, it's the richest deal, probably in NIL history for a high school recruit. What happens in a situation? And let's hope this doesn't happen. But what if there's a situation where Joe Milton does struggle, and maybe they lose to Florida in embarrassing fashion or something? How long before these people that are paying Nico will they put pressure on Josh Heupel? I mean, that's a dangerous place to get into. We hope we never get there, but we'd be naive to think that's not going to happen, at least somewhere. And if you're paying someone a high premium and he's not playing, people are going to be upset. And again, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it's something that could happen, and not even necessarily here, but it's going to happen somewhere.
Well, wasn't it Lane Kiffin talking about that not too long ago? What happens when you bring in one of these guys and they pay him one of these NIL deals, and he goes, they're not coaching. I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but he's got a point there. Just because you're projected great doesn't mean you're going to fit great in that team. So,
right.
And I'm not saying, I mean, we're speculating here on who's the starting quarterback. We know Milton will be the guy, short of an injury, but it's how long can he keep that job? I hope, Mike, he keeps it for the entire season. You know, hopefully for a college football playoff run. You know, that's what us big orange homers are thinking. So you don't ever want to have your quarterback looking over his shoulder for another. That shouldn't be it. He should be looking ahead to the next game. So, brother, I'm more I talk about it, I'm getting back on that Milton train. Give me 60%. Let's bring that number up a little bit. I don't want Nico. I mean, I want Nico to learn, and I don't want him. That's another thing. Sometimes when you throw these young guys into the mix, it feels like they can never get to. Look at Bo Nix, for example. You know, he was thrown in that fire. I mean, everybody talked about how great he was and the projections, and he should be on the field, and it felt like he never got a fair shake when he was down there at Auburn. Now he's projected the first pick in next year's draft over at Oregon. So sometimes you can get forced into a situation and it just kind of ruins, you know, your growth and development. I mean, he's still a kid, so I hope we can keep Nico off the field for another year. Let him come in if we're winning a game by a couple scores, you know, something like that, but nothing to come out there and just have the full pressure of winning.
And last thing I'll say on this, Shane, if you and I are sitting here and saying, you know, Joe Milton may struggle, that is the clearest indication that he'll probably win the Heisman Trophy this year. You know what?
That's right.
All right, Texas A&M, Shane, again, Max Johnson looked good in the spring game. There's, you know, and Jimbo will not commit to Connor Wigman. I think that's that's what you got to say in this transfer portal era, and that it's no slight to Max Johnson because he helped them win a couple games last year, including that Arkansas game. But I still think it'll be Connor Wigman, who played so well at the end of last season, the younger quarterback, higher ceiling, at least in my opinion. So I still think it'll be Connor Wigman, his job, and I'm giving him 80% to be the starting quarterback. And the only reason that number's so low is because of Max Johnson, because I have faith in him. And if, you know, Jimbo has shown in the past, if his quarterback struggles, he is more than willing to go to that backup for a spark, and he'll leave that backup in if he does provide a spark. So this is more about my confidence in Max Johnson being a outstanding backup than it is Connor Wigman not being able be the guy to get it done.
Yeah, I'm with you here, man. And I honestly, I think this is last year we see Max Johnson at Texas A&M. I think this is just coach talk. You know, this is something you got to say because in this league you cannot afford to just have one guy. You've got to have a multitude because if Connor gets hurt, you need to have Max come in and take over. But, yeah, I think this is Connor's gig, and I have from the beginning. And if he can continue to grow like he did the end of last season, I think Texas A&M is going to be in good shape here. So I'm with you. What was your percent on this one?
80%.
80, yeah, I'd get even higher. I think 90, 95%. This is your dude.
Well, we all know you love them Aggies.
Yeah, it's building, isn't it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it in the air? Everybody's like, college station's like, no, Shane, no, don't do it. As I cast my ballot at SEC Media Days, cha-ching.
All right, final one, Shane. Vanderbilt, I think, is, again, another easy one. A.J. Swan. True freshman last year, was outstanding given, just being a first-year player and what he had to work with. And I'm giving – this is the only other one I'm 100% on the board, Shane. And for me, it's A.J. Swan because he's that good of a player. I know people that cover that Vanderbilt beat that they've been covering it since Jay Cutler, and they said this kid is as talented as Jay Cutler ever was. So – that's high praise for a quarterback, given what Jay Cutler did for that school and on to the NFL. But A.J. Swan looks to be in that mold. He's the future of Vanderbilt football.
Just stay healthy. You know, it's something he wasn't able to finish last season. Took some hits. I think this is going to come down to offensive line. How good are they? And if they could keep him off the turf, brother, I think Vanderbilt does have another Cutler down there on their hands. This is a guy that – he does. I mean, short of this podcast, you probably don't hear about him, but the kid's got a hell of an arm on him and a hell of an athlete. So if given the opportunity, Vanderbilt's going to stay in some games just because of Swan. So yeah, I'm all on board here, 100%.
All right, Shane. Well, hey, that's all I got on this show. You got anything before we hop off the line? And before we go, quick announcement, another bunch of announcements on this one. We did reach 10,000 on YouTube, so we very, very much appreciate all the support on there. And if you're not subscribing already, it's absolutely free, won't cost you a thing. And Yeah, you get to know what Cousin Shane and I look like if that's something that you ever wanted to know. You know what?
YouTube, get on there because the videos, I'll be cranking those out later this week. And the version of shorts, I believe, is what they're called. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, part of me is, I've already got butterflies just thinking about the walks. 35 days? Is that the limit? I don't know, brother. But no, I'm just kidding.
I wish I said
gonna
85 now. 85 is the new line.
We should do a bet online, and see what the projected number is. What, guys, if you're listening right now, tomorrow Mike's going to put this out. He's going to reference the Big Orange Walk kicking off here. I'd like to know what you guys think the line should be that me completing. Is it 100? I hope so. That's the one I'm shooting for. But if you think it's 13, put it on there. I want to see what the listeners think, brother. Man, but other than that, everything else is good. I hope everybody had a wonderful Mother's Day. Moms, I know mine listens to the show. Thanks for everything you've done for me. My wife raised our 2 wonderful babies, and she's patient enough to let me do this podcast on the side here, Mike, so I want a shout out to her. I know she doesn't listen, but I may make her listen to at least these next 25 seconds here. So appreciate you, honey.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a great way to go out, Shane. I appreciate you. As always, appreciate each and every one of you for checking us out. We'll catch you on the next one.
All right. See you guys. Go Vols.